Hello everyone, and welcome to the 34th episode of Tuesdays with Tobe. My name is Tobe Frierson, and I know I say this each week, but I'm super excited for today's message. If you were with us last week, I wrapped up a two-part series called Move, Get Out the Way. And during those two messages, I was essentially trying to tell us, hey, we've got barriers, people, things that may be holding us back from reaching our full potential. And we might need to sit down and spend some time to figure out what those barriers are so we can move them and get them out of our way. And let's just get on with living a successful, healthy, whole, rewarding life. And so if you did not get a chance to see those messages, I definitely want to invite you back to check out Move, Get Out the Way. This week, I'm going to ask you a few simple questions. I want to ask some things like, how did you do it? How did you accomplish the goals that you've accomplished so far? Who inspired you to reach higher and to dream bigger? Also, who told you to get back in the ring after you tried to throw in the towel? This week's message is simply, whose shoulders are you standing on? Before we dive into today's message, as we do each week, look behind me and let's say our family rules. During Tuesdays with Tobe, we will use kind words. Do your best. Always be honest. Forgive and forget. Be happy. Count your blessings. Laugh at yourself. Stay positive and love one another. Tell me whether or not you think this is a true statement. We are who we are because of the hard work and the example of people who came before us. I'll say it again. We are who we are because of the hard work and the example of the people who came before us. I believe that statement full force, wholeheartedly. Whether we want to admit it or not, we are standing on the shoulders of some giants. And I hope that today's message prompts you to think about who they are and all the times they poured into you. They supported you. They gave you an encouraging word. They gave you a pat on the back. They provided for you. They actually kept you from seen and unseen dangers. And when we had to pull back those toes, they corrected you as a form of protection and love. I know you all have some people in your lives, but what I don't know is whether or not you've ever said thank you, or whether those folks are actually still with us so you can reach out. These people are responsible for the amazing you, and you are amazing, whether you admit it or know it. I'm here to tell you you're 100% amazing, but you're also standing on some shoulders. So let's take some time to reflect today. Whose shoulders are you standing on? As I contemplated this question, my list is quite extensive, and I know I'm fortunate for that, but I grew up in a large family, and when I tell you all a large family, it was big. Mom and dad were both one of 8 as far as their siblings. So I had a very, very large family. I also had some amazing teachers and coaches throughout the year. I've had some phenomenal mentors when I went off to college. And now that I've been in higher education for almost 20 years, I've had some great professionals that I've been looking up to in the higher ed space that have kind of carved out a path for me. So there are a number of shoulders that I've stood on. And I want to say thank you to those people. I'm only going to name a few though, because I think they're worth noting. They've been super influential in my life, and not just influential, but these people that I'm going to tell you about have been consistent. Some of them have been there since day one. So yes, that of course means they're a family member. And I just want to thank them for their wisdom, for their resources, for their acts of kindness, and for their presence. Some of them, their daily presence. And so let me tell you about these phenomenal people in my life. I'll start with Marlo. Marlo is my brother, and he knows this, one, because he lived it, but I've also told him. I had the fortune, and I think I like being a younger sibling, because there were a lot of things that I did faster because I saw an example. So Marlo's 4 years older. He's also a boy. So that means he was stronger, faster, could do all the things. And the way I'm built, Tobe likes to keep up. Like I like a challenge. I like to keep up. And so growing up, I had a brother who just happened to be phenomenally gifted and talented in terms of book smarts. He read all the time. He could draw. He could color in the lines. I couldn't do any of these things. He was neat. He kept a really neat room. So I had all these things to look at. And I was trying to emulate and do all the things that he was doing. I fell short many times. And I also kind of got in his way because I was the younger sister too. But Marlo, I've been looking at you for years. I appreciate the example. I appreciate the hard worker that you are, and now the family guy that you are. And sir, I have stood on your shoulders, and I continue to stand on your shoulders today. So thank you for that example. After my brother, I have to name a lady named Miss Geneva. Miss Geneva was our church musician at Green Hill Baptist Church in Alkaloo, South Carolina. And she was the first musician that I could remember from my childhood. My mother put us in music lessons very early on, and I immediately knew that, hey, I don't really want to do this classical stuff. Thanks, music teacher. Her name was Miss Smith. And I asked her if I could learn hymns. I knew I wanted to play in church. And so when I started learning hymns, I don't know how this came about. My dad was like a local legend in our community and church as it related to singing, choirs. And so I asked if I could go into the music pit. It was literally this pit. It had an organ in it and a piano in it. And it's where Miss Geneva played every Sunday. And I just wanted to sit with her. I just wanted to sit with Miss Geneva and watch her work her magic on that organ. She had a pizzazz about her. She was a very nice dresser. She was also a cosmetologist, so her hair was always done. She had flawless makeup. And I just sat and stared at Miss Geneva play this organ and play this piano and lead these choirs. And then eventually, guess what Toby got a chance to do? I led choirs, and I don't play the organ, but it is my favorite instrument. The Hammond B3 organ is full stop my favorite instrument. However, Miss Geneva, I'm standing on your shoulders, and Miss Geneva is no longer with us today. She can't see this or hear this, but oh boy, I have such fond memories of going in that music pit and that just looking at her, that actually becoming my life later on. So I want to thank her for that. I've got two cousins. Now I've got tons of cousins, but I've got two cousins that I absolutely have to name. Their names are Cheryl, Yvette, and Yvonne. And you're like, Toby, that's three people. No, we call Yvette Cheryl and Cheryl Yvette. So Cheryl, Yvette, and Yvonne are two older cousins, older by many years. So when I was like elementary school age, they were actually in college and starting professional lives and starting families. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever, especially because Yvonne was at the University of South Carolina. She would come home on the weekends and tell me all about her nursing studies and what was going on in school. She would ask me and my brother what the latest dances were. Neither one of us are really dancers. We didn't know. But she wanted to show us that kind of stuff. And then we just watched Yvette and Yvonne start their careers and just be phenomenal people in the workspaces and now having phenomenal families. And it was just a shoulder that I was standing on. I knew from a very young age, 5, 6, or 7, I was going to go to college because I had their stories. I knew that I wanted to have a career because they had careers. Yvonne and Yvette, thank you for letting me stand on your shoulders. That was such a great example. And then there's Cheryl's mom. Her name's Aunt Dolly. Y'all, Aunt Dolly was my personal seamstress growing up. I'm not kidding you. I was a really big kid. I got those things like, oh, you're big boned or you wear weight well. Those are all another day, another topic. But basically, my 8-year-old self couldn't really go shop anywhere and get clothes that fit. And I just happened to have a fabulously talented auntie, and she sewed. And so every Saturday, we would go to the fabric shop, and I would pick out these different fabrics. And most of these things were like dresses and stuff for church. But I had some casual wear for real. I had some casual wear as well. I remember wearing jams. She would make us, me and my brother had some shorts that Aunt Dolly made, but Aunt Dolly would make our clothes. Aunt Dolly was also a phenomenal baker and a phenomenal cook. And when we would go out on Saturday mornings to go to the fabric shop, for her to make all my clothes because my body was awkwardly shaped as a kid. Aunt Dolly would also have breakfast ready. And so I would come in and I would smell the grits and the bacon and the sausage and the toast. And she had like peach jelly. I didn't know anybody in the 80s who had peach jelly. Aunt Dolly always had like fancy stuff. So I would tell mom I had to eat over there because she had peach jelly. Anyway, Aunt Dolly would graciously serve me breakfast. And then she would say, your mom didn't cook this morning? Now y'all, my mom's a cook as well. Yeah, my mom cooked. I just had 2 breakfasts whenever we went to see Aunt Dolly just because that was our vibe. Like, I'm standing on her shoulders. She did all the things for me as a kid. She made all my clothes, and she also let me have 2 breakfasts on Saturdays because she knew good and well my mom cooked. So Aunt Dolly, thank you so much for allowing me to stand on your shoulders. Then there's Aunt Kay and Uncle WJ. I would call them a power couple. And Aunt Kay and Uncle Dub have always been super active in the ministry in our church growing up. They're both phenomenal singers. Aunt Kay is a tremendous choir director and always has been. And Aunt Kay, when she would direct, here they come. Anybody who knows this, they've seen these guns before. This is literally like what she would use with her hands when she was directing the choir. And I became a choir director at 15, 16 years old is when I kind of ventured out and got my own church and left my home church and started playing and directing choirs. While I never used her guns, There are so many things that I learned from her while she was conducting choirs, and the way she presented herself to the group, how prepared she was. And I took all those things and I formulated that into my own music ministry after I had an opportunity to start leading worship. And so I am super, super excited about honoring you today, Aunt Kay, honoring you, Uncle WJ, all the times you guys just poured into me as you saw my music starting to grow and to take off. I want to say thank you. I can't forget my Aunt Cynthia. My Aunt Cynthia was the first person that actually gave me a job. And when I tell you guys that I had a real job at 12 years old, I had a real job, full stop. Aunt Cynthia had 2 children, Jessica and John. John, sorry, I gotta call you John. He's like well in his 30s, but he's still John. And Aunt Cent, when she had to work over the summers and her children were out of school, well, Toby's in the 6th grade now, she's 12, we'll let Toby keep the kids. And Aunt Cynthia paid me a whopping $40 a week. Y'all, what does a 12-year-old do at $40 a week, right? And so my first job, my first employment was babysitting my 2 cousins. Thank you, Mom, for watching all 3 of us. But I did prepare their snacks. I prepared an enrichment activity for them. And then we all took naps. Those of you who know me, like, naps are essential. Like, a nap is not negotiable. We took naps. And then they were safe. Their mom came to get them and they were safe, and we did it all over the next day. So Aunt Cynthia, thank you so much for my first employment in life. I've taken a lot of skills that I learned from keeping John and Jessica, and now I use them in my everyday life. So I appreciate you. And then the last 2 are Robin, who's the Dean of Students at Erskine College, who absolutely saw a career for me in higher education and pushed me and spurred me on and made sure that I knew that there was so much more for me outside of my alma mater, because it took me 12 years to leave home. I was super comfortable there. I was rocking it out. I was in a job that I was comfortable with, and she was such an encourager for so many years about what she saw in me. And also, being a Dean of Students herself, I saw a female in a leadership role like that, and so I just aspired for higher and for more because of Robin's example. So Robin, I thank you. And then lastly, there's Nana. And Nana's actually not a family member. Nana is someone who I met at 18 years old when I went off to college. She was actually a member of the church that I ended up serving for about 10 years. And when I tell you all that Nana elevated my prayer life, Nana elevated my spirituality just by living and breathing. This woman always had an encouraging word. She had a correction close by too. Man, it was going to be a certain way. If you were dealing with Nana, you better come correct. And I'm so grateful for that level of excellence in her. I am so grateful for how she walked so closely with the Lord. That was very important to her. And she didn't make others do that, but you just kind of knew where she was coming from. And that was highly attractive to me. And we actually lost Nana this past January. But I know for a fact I'm standing on Nana's shoulders. Nana's one of those folks that took a clove of garlic once a day, every day. And Nana will flat out tell you, oh, I haven't had a head cold since 1972. It was either 72 or 76, but this is a real story. And she was proud of that. And she attributes that 1 clove of garlic to never having a head cold. And she attributes her prayer life to that as well. And so, Nana, I am standing on your shoulders. Now that I've shared my list of people with you all, I really want you all to sit down and think about this. I want you to sit down and think about the folks that you owe a great big thank you to, that you owe maybe a phone call if they're still with us. I can't talk to Miss Geneva on this list, and I can't talk to Nana because they're no longer here. But every single person I just named to you, not only can I talk to those folks, they are still in my life, and I do talk to them, and I'm so grateful for that. But I don't know that I've stopped so much to say thank you, that I've actually pointed out those examples that I just gave you all as to why they're so special to me and why I was literally standing on their shoulders. And you might say, well, Toby, you didn't mention your mom or your dad or grandparents. And no, I didn't mention them. That is a given. Those folks gave me life, and I've got a number of examples from mom and dad and from my grandparents. But I wanted to kind of call out the other people that I just haven't said these things to. And so your homework this week is to find out for yourself, okay, wait a minute, who have I looked at? Who have I emulated? Who have I said, oh my gosh, I should probably try to do that, or find out how they did it? I wonder if they come alongside of me and give me some encouragement and kind of push me towards my goals. You have people in your life that you've done this very same thing to. They just might not be identified. So as you reflect on those people, I want you to write them down on a piece of paper. I want you to make sure you reach out to them and say thank you. You can even share this video with them and say, hey, the reason why I'm reaching out to you is this lady named Toby said, I needed to say, I've been standing on your shoulders for all these years, and I never told you that. And so I want you all to drop some comments for me in the section below. If you've got 2 or 3 people that you know have been influential in your life, please tell me who they are. Like, share, and subscribe. And guys, let's keep standing on these shoulders. And by the way, someone's standing on your shoulders as well. I'll see you back here next week. Thank you all for watching, and have a great time.